Cutters, Degrassi, Unpopular Opinions. Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Dab, and welcome you to another Cutter, Degrassi, Unpopular Opinion. And this is an unpopular opinion I basically set myself up for to talk about. Now, I've done a couple of unpopular opinions on Toby and all that. And I did make a Reddit post, how many days ago? 9 days ago, and this is being taped on August 27th, 2022, for your context. Alright, so I had an unpopular opinion saying there was no way Toby would have lasted on the show minus JT. I say, I feel that Toby had no chemistry with anyone outside JT and maybe Emma. When you look at all his plot lines that weren't with him being with JT, they look stale and awkward, especially season 3, trying to get into Jimmy's good graces by changing Jimmy's grades but getting caught and Jimmy disowning him. Of course, the storyline with being Rick's friend in season 4 was awkward too. I still don't know why Toby wanted to be friends with Rick, especially if he knew about Rick's past, but the only vibe I get was because JT abandoned him to be with Danny. Was because JT abandoned him to be with Danny. So I guess in a sense, Toby wanted to be Rick's friend. He needed somebody. Fortunately, JT wised up and became Toby's friend again, and then post JT step in season 6, Toby was put on the sidelines. Hell, he wasn't even given billing in the season 7 opening credits. What a free fall. What are your thoughts? Okay, so for context, this is what I say. So Toby in season 1 was one of the best characters around. You could argue that Emma was the star of season 1, but the breakout star was Toby and Ashley. They had a home life that was full of rife because, they were step siblings, their parents getting in trouble, Ashley's dad being gay and all that, and Ashley kind of disowning him at first. Toby's parents on parents' night, that Toby tried to prevent them from going to parents' night because, they were toxic towards each other and all that. But then season 2, when Craig is introduced, Craig basically stole Toby's thunder. Yes, Toby had that eating disorder storyline and all that. But the fact of the matter was that, Toby just seemed not to have any good storylines unless JT was involved in them. Season 3, JT kind of leaves Toby in the dust for popular friends. And then that's when Toby gravitates towards Jimmy and says that he can help Jimmy get to a concert by putting his grades up. He does it through the laptop, but then the laptop gets busted, and Jimmy says, you got to keep going with this. So Toby does it on the school computer. But thankfully, though, well, unfortunately for him, Radish finds out about it by wanting Toby to do some stuff. And then finding out, wait, how did you get in my system? Pure luck. But then Toby rats Jimmy out. They go to that famous Saturday's detention. Toby's got nothing. And then, Toby telling JT's popular crowd about JT's wet dream with Liberty and all that. But then season 4, he was Rick's friend for some odd reason. I guess because they were paired up with School Project and Wacky Brain. That, they both knew they were geeks and all of that. And then, Toby being harassed by Spitter and Jay about being Rick's friend and all that. And then that's when Rick tells Jimmy that, Toby's now going to get the brunt of pain too. Toby, is there when Sean wrestles Rick for the gun and it goes off and Toby doesn't know what to do. He's conflicted whether to support Rick or to basically tell him off. Regardless, it's just terrible. I mean, I know it could be a popular opinion, but the unpopular opinion is that, Toby's free fall was because of the lack of being with JT. I mean, I know his free fall in season 2 happened because, Craig came in the picture and became a fan favorite, pushing Toby kind of to the sidelines. But Toby was still kind of in the show. But then after JT's death, he was pushed even harder, and in fact wasn't even in the opening credits to season 7. I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, kind of awkward if you think about it. But anyway, we got 6 comments, and guess who stepped up again? Yeah, well, Rachel. But I'll talk more. All right, so Chick Bean Juice said, I feel really bad for his character because you're completely right. And after JT died, Toby just seemed like a random side character with no story. He had much more going on in his first 2 seasons. True. Very, very true. Crash Evidence says, I love Toby. They could have explored the complicated grief he had regarding Rick more. I would add on to the complicated grief about regarding JT. All right. So anyway, someone says Toby's character was insufferable with JT and even worse without him. Toby has no storyline besides the wrestling bit. Other than that, he's an accessory. But almost as always, Rachel has stepped up again. Rachel said, Toby gets called the Arthur, and it makes sense even if you like Arthur from Degrassi Junior High / High. Now, of course, for context, oh no, sorry, she talks about it in context. I would have said my context. Anyhow, they don't get plots. They're nerdy and academic. They're both related in some way to an older sister / stepsister who they don't get along with. Arthur got paired with Yick in Degrassi Junior High as best friends early on, and it was believable friendship that lasted for most of the show, with Yick sincerely wanting his cooler new friends to like and accept Arthur, but they never did. And Yick just woke up cool and Arthur never did. And Toby got JT, but JT takes off mostly because they give him a romantic interest in Liberty kind of early. And it takes him a while to return her feelings, and he tends to go for girls who everyone thinks is out of his league. So JT gets romantic plots, and JT gets to hang out with popular kids. And JT gets dates, and he does get Liberty, a pregnancy and breakup plotline during the kids show on public access and dating Mia before he dies. Toby gets virtually nothing. Ashley and JT were his ties to the cast, but Ashley was usually off doing her own thing and wasn't close to him, and then left. Part of JT's character growth sadly involved leaving Toby behind because Toby wasn't keeping pace with JT wanting to be more mature and excited about growing up and doing new things. Toby just liked talking about old things and old days. I think Toby and JT were never as close again after the Rick situation, and it was that era that felt like Toby's downfall to me. Since he didn't have JT or Ashley to rely on, his other friends were supposed to be Manny and Emma, but they outgrew Toby too. He doesn't even get a girlfriend except for Kendra, who's Black Bolt. So he's attached to a girl who would make people more interested in what was going on in his life. He doesn't really seem either bullied or liked. He was kind of there, like Arthur, who had been reduced to barely having speaking roles at some point during Degrassi High. He lost Zeke as his best friend and had a crush on Caitlin, who didn't reciprocate. They could have done more things with Toby, but they never did. And as time went on, his character got more and more stale, just sitting there and becoming a background character nearly. I think he is most remembered for being friends with JT, even more than being Ashley's stepbrother. And I can't remember how much they had for him to do without JT being around. They didn't have a lot. They really didn't. So for me, it's like, why was Toby even needed? I don't think we really needed Toby at all. Without JT, Toby would definitely have been nothing. He did have the first few seasons, but then all of a sudden, it's failed. And most of his storylines involved JT or Ashley, who left at one time or another. So Toby didn't really have much to talk about. I just feel so bad for Toby because they put him off to the sideline and all that. They could have just written him out, and I think it would have been a better line for him. But in simple terms, Toby was a geek and people just didn't like him. Kind of stupid, but that's just the way life is, unfortunately. And I don't like it any more than you do. Anyway, I'm jumped on.